Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast number 183. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded on the evening of Wednesday, August the 19th, from the James Strong Show studio in Western St. Charles County. Well, we've got a guest on, and he's quite an interesting individual. I've enjoyed speaking with him. He is a investigator for BFRO.net. And BFRO, my friends, stands for Bigfoot Research Organization. That's right. He's a Bigfoot investigator. And his name is Carter Buschardt. Carter, welcome to the James Strong Show.
Well, thank you, James. I'm awesomely glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad you took the time to be on the podcast. I stumbled upon your Facebook post. I want to say this was Sunday or Monday of this week, and I shot you an instant message. You responded. We had a conversation, and so this whole thing has gone very, very quickly. And good things come to those who wait, but this time we didn't have to wait too long. So good for us. You've got a book out. I've downloaded the book just last night. As I mentioned, I haven't had a chance to read it much, but it's called Sasquatch, Evidence of an Enigma. And it's a book about some of the investigations that you've done on biped hominins, which may or may not be called Bigfoot, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
How did one decide that, you know what, I think that I'm going to take my spare time and become a Bigfoot investigator? How does one even start to do something like that?
Well, I've been interested. I've been with BFRO for about 11 years, and I was interested in this field of study about 10 years before that. And about 12 years ago, my wife and I went to Washington State, really just to get away, just to have a vacation, although it was it's the home of Sasquatch, nationally and worldwide. I mean, that's the ground zero for all Sasquatch events. And long story short, the geocache, you familiar with geocache? Where people would plant boxes all around the world, and they would try to find them strictly by GPS coordinates. Right,
it's like a scavenger hunt type of thing.
Yeah, like a scavenger hunt. Mm-hmm. Where's Waldo type thing? So I left the box at 34 degrees latitude, blah blah blah, and you would go to these coordinates and try to find these boxes. If you found the box, you would open up the box, put something in, take something out, sign your name, close it back up, and leave a clue for the next person. So I accidentally, going behind a gigantic tree in Washington State to relieve myself, and lo and behold, there was an ammo box. And I thought, oh my God, I found a drug stash. And so I carefully went back around the other side of the tree, took a stick and opened the box, and lo and behold, it was a geocache. And in that box was the name of a Bigfoot investigator. I said, I've always wanted to do that, and I've been doing enough research. I think I got enough, stones to go out and do it. So I contacted the guy because he left his email. That's what everybody does. And he said, you need to go on an expedition. And he hooked me up with an expedition, and I got in right away. After about 2 or 3 expeditions, I became an investigator. I just had a knack for it. I love what I do. I eat, sleep, and drink this stuff. And so I've been an investigator for the past 11 years at BFRO.
Wow. Very good. And how many investigations have you personally been on in the last 12 years or so?
I've had 80 reports published. 75 to 80, somewhere in there, 70, I don't know. I've had a lot of reports published. I have met probably a third of those people because I have enough time on my hands. I'm semi-retired from my day job, and I can go meet these people and talk to them in person, get an eye-to-eye contact, and get the sense of what they were really experiencing. I probably interviewed 250 to 300 witnesses. Not all reports get published. They have to meet certain criteria, believability, enough data to, give everybody a learning experience as to what's going on out there. So I've had, like I said, 75 to 80 reports published. So I've talked to a lot of people.
And when you, I guess the way it works is somebody calls in, writes into BFRO, and then you're assigned to follow up. Is that how it works?
Yeah, what it is we have a clearing system. It's called flats. So all the reports from all over the country, North America, Canada, Hawaii, everywhere, comes to this big clearinghouse. And then when you become an investigator, you say, I'd like to work these 3 or 4 states or just one state. I work all over the country, but basically I work Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Those are the 4 areas because I live in Missouri. So I work those 4 states. And so new reports coming in, they get published. We look at them and go, oh, that looks pretty cool. That person looks like they might be, making something up here. So we'll just keep moving. So we look and we assign it to ourselves. First come, first served kind of deal.
Okay.
And then we call them. Hopefully they've left a phone number. The ones that don't leave plenty of contact information usually don't want to be contacted. They just want to report the event and be left alone. So we'll try to contact them, but if I don't have a phone and an email, it's really hard. And
Sure.
Some people they are really just getting it off their chest so they can feel better about the event. And some of them, like I said, they just don't want to talk to anybody because they're very affected by the event. A Class A eyeball-to-eyeball sighting will change you in ways you probably just can't even imagine.
Well, I think it's the same way with sightings of Sasquatch, sightings of UFOs, other paranormal first encounters. Whereas you take a guy or a gal who are just your average Jack or Jill, going to work, having a family, then all of a sudden they see something. They see a Sasquatch, they see a UFO, they see something, and they know it's not swamp gas. They know it's not a bear. They know it's something other than that. And they have one of 2 choices. They can go public with this and meet with public ridicule, or they can keep it to themselves.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. And fear of ridicule is why we probably don't hear, but at the most 20% of all sightings. If there's 1,000 real sightings, we might hear of 100, 150 because people are afraid of, ridicule. And it comes from all corners of life. It comes from your coworkers, comes from your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, coworkers, other family members, and especially in small rural areas, you don't want to be known as, there's Crazy Bob. He saw a Sasquatch,
Exactly.
So yeah, go ahead.
But there's thousands of sightings of Sasquatch in the country. Here in my studio, as we speak, I'm looking across the room at a large poster given to me by my niece, and it lists all the Sasquatch sightings in California. And she's from California, and she knows I'm interested, so she sends me this poster. In fact, when my wife and I went out to Northern California to visit her, one of the things we wanted to do was go to Willow Creek to try to, find. I even found how to get to the place where the Gimlin film was filmed. And my niece basically said, don't go there. And I said, well, why not? Isn't it public land? She said, well, it is and it isn't. Apparently it's either on Indian land, Native American land, or you have to go through that area to get there. They don't take kindly to strangers. They especially don't take kindly to strangers who aren't from the area and are just there for the afternoon. And basically she said, without saying that I could run into trouble, she was saying, Unc, I love you. Why don't you just not do that? And the inference was there were things there that I probably shouldn't stumble upon. Mm-hmm. And I took her advice. Because when you go out to those areas, and Washington State is the same way. People have told me, they said, look, there's no way there could be something out there. The people who say there's no way there could be something out there have not walked through those woods. Those woods are dense with a capital D, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they are basically Washington State, Oregon. That area is really that is rainforest.
That's right. It's a deciduous rainforest.
Yeah, it has its own. Weather patterns. It has its own. Everything is its own little world. So it is thick, dense. There are areas that no one has set foot on yet. No one we know of. And unless you know your way around and have some kind of permission or a local that kind of gets you to an area. It's just not really, advised. And you can go there. There are people that will take you there. Mm-hmm. But the odds of you seeing anything other than you just being where the iconic film was shot, chances are nothing's going to be there. It's just, I came, I saw, I went, I was there. I saw it. But, that happens with me all the time. Someone says, I just turned in a report last week. A white Sasquatch down here in Cass County, which is just south of Kansas City a little bit. Well, let's go. Well, okay, what are we going to see? Well, maybe we'll see it. Well, most likely you won't. And so, going back to relive the scene of the crime, so to speak, isn't always productive anyway.
Sure.
But she probably told you right. She's probably a local there, and she probably knows better than you or I what the status quo is of getting on that area down there.
And of the hundreds of people that you've interviewed, I'm sure you've interviewed some where you're thinking, okay, this guy just wants some attention, and his story probably isn't legit. But
yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of them. I would assume most of them were these folks, if they cared enough to reach out, they saw something.
Yeah. I'd say 90% of the people I talk to have had a real event, or it is an innocent, mistaken identity. Mm-hmm. And the mistaken identity would be something we call a Class B, where I saw a humanoid figure in the woods. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I didn't see it clear. I just saw a shadow. It sure looked like something, but I don't know for sure. That's a misidentification, or it's a Class B. It could have been a Sasquatch, but you didn't have clarity. You didn't break it down into the height and the hair color and the mannerisms and the gait and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But most of the people, when they're calling, they are sharing something with you that they might not share with their spouse. And some of these people have been affected for the rest of their lives. When it's such an earth-shattering event to see the creature that you are told from the time you're an embryo doesn't exist, and then all of a sudden this creature is standing there before you, what do? You're trying to tell yourself it's not there. It's a guy in a suit. It's a deer. It's a bear. I'm seeing things. I shouldn't have eaten that last pork chop, whatever. You're trying to talk yourself out of it, and then you can't, because it is real. It's looking at you. You can feel its presence. You can smell it. So when they're telling you this stuff, they are sharing stuff with you that they wouldn't tell to just about anybody else in their life, even a close loved one, because they don't want the pressure and the ridicule.
Is it because you're a stranger, or is it because you're the individual who is probably not going to laugh, mock, or ridicule them? They're going to at the very least, listen and take them seriously?
Yeah, that's correct. Probably a little of both.